bringing up the slides, please.
Sure. Okay, can you see the
yes,
screen?
Very
okay,
much,
cool.
Anu. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
If you can flip over to the agenda, please.
Yep.
Okay, so the agenda, I'll keep it very simple. We'll have an introduction for 5 minutes. When I say introduction, it is going to be introduction of the topic, which will be probably the concept appreciation. And then we will, there will be introduction of the panelists, followed by panelist presentations. 3 of them will present. And then finally, we'll open up for questions and answers with the vote of thanks to conclude. So question and answers, we are gonna let people ask questions freely over the chat icon. Okay, we are not going to open the voice enablement for participants. In the interest of keeping this this session very interesting, we thought that we will keep the voices of the panelists on the forum which is joined together. So effectively, you can use a simple set of rules. So if you want to ask a question, you can use the chat icon, you can raise your question, and at the end of all the panelists' presentation, we'll pick up top 5 questions and then we will try to answer them. And in the event, if while we are presenting, beyond our control, if we lose the power, allow us some time, we will try to manage the show. This is a strange time, and we are trying to manage to put together a collaboration through the virtual medium. So bear with us if such an event happens. Okay, thank you very much, and let's move on to the introduction of the concept appreciation. All right, so psychologists typically bring up what are the pillars of success. There are various quotients they speak about. A quotient is simply but a measure. So in effect, they call 3 Qs, or there are more than 3, but mostly the 3, which are the 3 Qs or 3 quotients, which are pretty popular or gaining importance these days. The first one, IQ, the first traditional one. IQ is a measure that was used traditionally, and it is an ability to apply logic or probably use your memory power to come back to something, make your predictions, and then an individual is assessed. And if he gets a certain score, that would typically mean that that individual is very bright. This went on for some time. We all know that. And then Daniel Goleman came and introduced the topic called EQ. What is that? It's a measurement of emotional intelligence. What does it mean? It basically means, how do I control my own emotions? How do I recognize others' emotions and alter my thinking and behavior? How do I influence people? How do I persuade them towards a certain direction? And that gained popularity. Daniel Goleman's book is still my personal favorite. It's really, really very, it's all about relationships. If you just, the IQ especially gives you the entry criteria to academically succeed, gain your intellectual capabilities, and enter into the stage. But to perform really well, you need the support of various sponsors, various people. 360-degree support is required, and emotional intelligence helps you gain that. And now, the most important topic of today, AQ. What is adversity quotient? That's what we are going to discuss for the next probably 45 minutes through an experience share. There is no science, but this is called the science of adversity quotient is called the science of resilience. Anybody can fall into adversity. And what is adversity? Adversity is something that, in my view, is something like you are going outside your comfort zone. If you're gone outside the comfort zone, how do you respond? Or are you responding or reacting? How do you deal with stress? How do you persevere? Do you continuously learn to recover? How do you learn? How do you calculate your risks and move on? What's your ability to stay outside the comfort zone and still adapt to it? Charles Darwin very clearly stated, the species that adapts the best is the survivor, not the survival of the fittest. The species that adapts will continue to survive. So if we are outside the comfort zone, it is absolutely important that you adapt to the contextual environment and then start working towards. We are in strange times. After COVID goes, what comes back, we don't know. But we should be prepared for any kind of adversity and adapt to that environment. And that's why we thought it's important we bring up this topic. And I will start off before I hand over to the panelists and introduce them. I'll set the stage probably with a couple of examples which are very close to me. So the first example, if you see this picture, it very clearly shows this is 1983 India winning the World Cup. What does it primarily say? We were the underdogs. That particular day, everybody thought in the world West Indies is going to win the World Cup for the third time. But India put up a very, very small score, and yet they won because they grabbed every opportunity that came on their way. They took their risks. They never gave up. They never looked like losers, right? The mindset was something like, let me try. I want to win. I have it in me. Let me try. So that is one thing that led us to a cricket culture in India that transformed the entire way we look at cricket. And on that very day, we did it. And India is now in the cricket's map for something that it's an industry by itself right now. And I'll take a very second example. The second example is very interesting, and it's again very close to me. There's a Kingfisher, and there is a Shinkansen. Shinkansen is nothing but the bullet train. What's the relevance? So when the bullet train project was commissioned in Japan, what primarily happened was something like this. The train was in trial runs, and when it was entering the tunnels, it was a massive disaster because the sound it created due to the air volume within the tunnel created shattering of windows across, and people thought it was an earthquake. And every time it went into the tunnel, it started shattering everything away. The project manager, who was responsible for this delivery, got so perturbed, and in 3 months' time he has to deliver. He doesn't have a solution. So he went into the forest and sat down. And what really happened? He sat down, he wanted to win this project, but he's afraid of the social stigma. In Japan, if you fail forever. You cannot recover. It's a soldierly kind of a spirit. So he wanted to be left alone. He sat down, and suddenly one day, or 2-3 days got over, and suddenly when he was pondering over the pond, he saw a kingfisher just diving into the water, capturing a fish and going away. And that suddenly struck. When a kingfisher is coming at such a speed and hitting the still water, it didn't create a sound. There were no ripples. It just picked the fish and went away. What was the reason? He thought it is nothing but the beak, the aerodynamism. So immediately he ran back. He extended the beak of his train to such an extent that every time it went into the tunnel, there was it was going like slicing butter. When you hit the knife on the butter, it was like slicing that way. So in the adversity, he learned something by applying. It was something of a no return for him. If he wanted to quit, he could have already quit. What made him to sit down, think, and run back is all about the adversity quotient is all about. Most of us put adversity in such a way that what is really adverse to you, it may not be adverse to me. It is about the level of intensity you reflect within your brain. So is there a perfect science? It is, of course, the science of resilience. Is there a perfect science? Well, there are people who have really gone through these adversities, and they're going to, and they are our panelists, and they're going to tell us exactly how adversity looked like, what is the face of adversity, and how did they attack it, and how did they manage it, and how did they come back. So with this, I think I set the stage, and I want to introduce to the amazing panelists we've got today. Okay, so the first panelist for today, Meenakshi Aravind. She calls herself the mother, beyond from what all she does. She's a trailblazer. What does it mean? She's a traveler. I let her tell where she traveled. Everybody traveled. We all traveled. But what did she really travel? I let her tell that. She's also an industrialist, which basically means she is the director of a couple of major initiatives in the industry. Okay? And in a way, she brings in the element of adventure-related adversity, and then she tries to explain how she will try to explain what are the key takeaways. That's Meenakshi Aravind. The second panelist, Dr. Ajay GV. an inspiration, a motivation to all of us. He's the frontline doctor on COVID-19 at the moment. He's sitting in a hospital and he's going to present for us today. He's an oncologist. For people who want to understand what oncology, it's a cancer doctor. And he's also an international TT player. Okay, and he will remain an inspiration for all of us today. Okay, and forever. The third panelist, Neeraja Ganesh, is from the intellectual part of, she comes from the academical background, and she does a lot of initiatives on leadership. She is the catalyst between industry and education. What does it mean? She plays the pivotal role to connect talent to the industry and ensure talent gets absorbed into the industry and it stays relevant. Such a fantastic career position she's sitting right now. It's a very balancing position. She accelerates the process. And she's a leadership evangelist, very, very active, and a success coach as well. So with this having said, I'm going to hand over the presentation to Meenakshi Aravind to present the adventurous part of how we address adversity quotient. Thank you. Meenakshi, all over to you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks, everybody. Hello, good afternoon. I am Meenakshi Aravind, and I am from Coimbatore, small town Coimbatore, and I've lived most of my life there. I shuttle between Coimbatore and Dindigul. Pretty much my life is that much. But life is very easy for me. I studied in Coimbatore, went to school in Coimbatore, did my college, and then got married off when I was 23. And I found I'm a business management graduate. I have a daughter, she's 24 now. She's back home from studying in the United States. My life just seemed like empty. I got married in Dindigul and I was just doing this home. I was at home and I started working with my husband. And I realized that we didn't work well together. We are both very strong-willed people, and then we brought back differences from work. So I stopped working and I found so much time on my hand. I just didn't know what to do with myself, and I started traveling. My daughter was in boarding school in Kodaikanal, so then I was just left doing nothing at home. So I started traveling, and then I started driving across the world. And in 2016, me, my husband, my brother, a bunch of friends drove from Imphal to Thailand. That was the first time that I was doing overlanding per se. It's called overlanding. It's a term now. These days it's a term. So you need cross country borders by land. It's called overlanding. So I started overlanding, and that was in January 2016 that I did my first trip. It was a 3,000 kilometer drive from Imphal to Burma. That was my first trip. And then the back of my mind, I was planning Coimbatore to London. I was planning already Coimbatore to London for 2017. So planning this trip was, it took 6 months of my life, like entirely. It ate up. I would wake up to it, go to sleep with it. I was constantly researching stuff because it involved 72 days of journey, and then 24 countries, 24,000 kilometers. And it was for 70 years of independent India. So I was planning this trip. And then when I told people this was happening, my family was supportive. They didn't even flinch. They said, okay, all right, go ahead and do it. But then from outside, from the public, I only got criticism. They're like, why would a woman want to do this? You don't have to be taking so much of a risk. Why go to London by car? You've been there many times. So much of money spent. There was just constant criticism coming my way. And I didn't have anybody to go with me. So I took to social media and I found my two participants, lady participants, who drove with me to Coimbatore to London. Two women, one from Bombay and one from Pollachi, on Facebook, on social media, completely strange. I didn't know they existed before. So that's how my team formed. So fast forwarding March 23rd, 2017, we flagged off from Coimbatore from SNR grounds, and we had about 3,000 people. And as it started taking shape, people kind of followed us. I call it XPD 2470. 24 XPD being expedition, 24 being 24,000 kilometers, 24 countries, 70 days and 70 years of independent India. So I call it XPD 2470. It kind of built up the social media attention. They kept posting stuff, and the trip happened. It was we left on the 23rd and we reached June 5th into London, central London. We finished at the Indian Embassy as planned. At 5:30 p.m. we drove in. But between the 70 days before the 70 days of driving, at the outset, it looks just like a jolly trip. Three women out, having a good time. No, it's not. It's something that three women in an Indian car in alien lands, no without knowing the language. We're at the mercy of immigration officers at borders. At times they don't give you any explanation. They just detain you unnecessarily for 8 hours, 9 hours, and then we're driving out at dark. All these things can happen, but the biggest adversity, the first thing that happened on the trip on XPD 2470 was in Thailand. Everybody goes to Thailand to have a jolly time and everybody's happy, but we didn't land up that way. It was not at all happy. So Priya Rajpal, the third participant, had to fly back to India for a personal reason. So it was only me and Mukambika. Mukambika is from Pollachi, first time traveler. She's never stepped out of the country. She's never been out of the country, never driven in foreign lands. So you can imagine my apprehension of doing, crossing, leaving India. Myanmar was beautiful, 4 days. It was fabulous. We had a good time, and we drive into Thailand at 6:30 on a Friday evening. And then we stamped our passports. We had the visas. We had all the paperwork. We showed them the paperwork, and then the immigration officer says, "You cannot drive your car, and your car does not have a permit." So I'm like, "We have all the permits." That said, he says, "No, there's a new permit that's been introduced on the March 31st, and we are there in April, early April, and we didn't know about it." The kind of planning that went in, the micro planning that went in, 6 months of my life seemed like it's a waste, because you're stuck there at the border. Let me tell you what can happen if the permit didn't come through. It did come through on time, but if it didn't come through, all the visas in Central Asia are date specific. They're not time specific. Like when you say May 7th to May 15th, May 15th to May 18th, that's how it goes. And if you don't enter and exit those countries, you're stuck. You need to come back to India, redo your visas, and go back. So everything falls apart. All the hard work, all the money spent, everything would fall apart. That's the kind of adversity that could actually come out of that one permit not happening to us. So we as Indians, me and Mokambika, just the both of us, we tried to talk to them. We cried. We tried to bribe them. We did everything possible under the sun. And then we were told, "No, you cannot. You need to have the permit to drive the car. And you can go in though, but you cannot get the permit." So it's about 6:30 in the evening when we drive in, but till about 8 o'clock, we are trying to talk to them and nothing happened. They just wouldn't budge. And about 8, when the borders shut, all land borders close at 8, 8:30, whatever time, there's no specific time. They open and close as then when they want. So at 8:30 in the evening, they literally threw us out, me and Mokambika, on this really desolate border town called Mae Sot in Thailand. So we run to the car and we trying to get a chargers, money, whatever papers, passports, whatever we could, a set of clothes, some food. And then we step out and there's absolutely nobody. It's a dead place. And then we literally walk to this lodge. It's a dingy, seedy place where there's a drunk man, like in the movies, sitting there. And then typically this actually happened to us. And then we were asked to pay 350 bahts up beforehand and stay for the night. And then we stayed that night, all night up, trying to call people across the world, friends, family, embassies. Like, we can't do anything now. It's a Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, we don't work. We'll try and see what we can do on Monday. So we don't have that time. So I called so many people. I ran up a bill about 35,000 trying to talk to people just that night to get a contact to see if anything can be done. And then I finally found somebody in Coimbatore, a Rotarian. He knew the ex-Prime Minister of Thailand. So he got in touch with the Prime Minister and then he said, "You guys fly to Bangkok tomorrow and then we'll see what can be done." So we flew to Bangkok on Saturday evening, went and met the Prime Minister, ex-Prime Minister on Monday morning. They said, we'll try and do the permit because from Wednesday, it's the Songkran festival, their New Year. So everything shuts down for 14 days. At 10 to 14 days, everything's dead. So we had practically 48 hours to get this permit done, which usually takes 3 weeks, they say. So we paid up. We again spent a lot of money on a permit that should have cost us 3,000 rupees. It cost us about 60,000 rupees. And then we paid up and we flew back to the Mae Sot border and waited. And Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, it was faxed to us. And then we went and we shoved literally the paper in his face, the immigration officer's face, and got in the car and drove. We drove for 2 days continuously. We crossed Thailand, we crossed Laos, we drove into China. So that was one of the biggest adversities that we faced on that particular trip. for me, to talk about it today, it's all good. It's like a story to tell. But at that point, at that night, me and Mukambika sitting on that bed in that little seedy lodge with the drunk man sitting at the door. There's nobody in the lodge. It's just me and her. Anything could have happened to us. I mean, we couldn't have got the permit. Anything could have happened. We could have lost our money, passports, because it was just so scary. But it all went well. And then I think, because for me that particular day, Mukambika she was broken because she didn't know what to do. And I kept calling people and I never gave up, it's easy to say that you should have a plan B, but there is no plan B in such travels. Like, you cannot plan, you can't plan for this. And the kind of planning that went into it, this was not oversight, it was a new permit. Things can happen with us. And for me, on that drive, Murphy's law was working overtime, like completely berserk. Murphy's law was just going nuts. Every Friday we would have an issue. So that's how it was. But thankfully, for me it was June 5th, London. Driving in 5:30 was on my mind, and that kept me going, because this was a dream that I've been wanting to do for the last 7 years. And I finally had the opportunity. We are in the car, we got everything done, we are on the way. And there was no plan B, there was no going back. I mean, it just cannot happen. And I would say this: there is God, and then there is all the people out there on Facebook who are wishing us. There were about 8,000 people following us all over India, especially Coimbatore. And all the wishes that got sent to us our way, the goodwill that was there, which actually kept us going. And other than that, there were other issues. We got lost. We got stuck in a really high mountain pass at minus 18 degrees. The car diesel froze. So those are the things that happened. But for me, adversity, I've come out stronger than before. My life has completely changed. Rajesh knows me from before, and the kind of person that I was to the person I am, the kind of contacts that I have made best out of this adversity or the trip itself. I've come out more resilient. And the thing is, for me to travel, for you to travel with your spouse or your friend or anybody else, your best friend, your child, it's a lot different than when you're traveling with a stranger. You don't know their quirkiness. They don't know me as well. So you don't know what to expect from them. Every day is a new day. Every day there are mood swings. And there are 3 women in a little car. There's bound to be claustrophobia. There's bound to be cabin fever. So those are the other things that was very hard for me. I'm a very independent person. So then for me to plan this trip and then take 2 women along, and then make sure that we end properly. There was this constant bickering. If you want to buy a bottle of water, there are 3 opinions, because the 3 of us are from very different social upbringings, totally social. Priya's from Bombay, very pushy, very well traveled. She's lived in Canada, that sort of thing. And I'm what I am, again, very strong willed, and I can be a control freak. I have OCD next level. So that's me. And then there's Mukambika, who is from a small village. And then again, because when you're from a village, and then when you're a village, and then you're waited on hand and foot, you're the lady of the house. Those are the things, that the 3 different social upbringings. And that was the hardest part for me. I was able to handle food. I'm a vegetarian. Again, it's very difficult. The times that I ate French fries for breakfast from last night, I would buy French fries and keep it for breakfast because I won't get food. So food, again, was very, very hard. But for me, the hardest part was the people that you're traveling with. It's not easy. And then there's weather. There's every day there's trouble. There's bad fuel. Nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. It looks very nice when I post every night at 11 o'clock when I do my Facebook post. It all sounds very romanticized, but it's not. You pick up your own bag, you fuel your own car, you do everything. You wash your car. There's nobody to help you. Every day you're sleeping in a different bed, mind you, bad bathrooms to everything. Those are the kind of adversities that I've encountered on these trips. And then 2019, thankfully it all ended well. We shipped the car back. We reached on June 5th. It finished beautifully. And then we all, got home in one piece, which was fabulous. And the car also, that there wasn't a single scratch. And I drove into central London, and I get out, and the ambassador is there and everything. My second brother, Sanjay, I am seeing him after 70 days, but he goes around the car to check if there's a scratch on it. So, but there was not a single scratch on it. So that's how the car performed beautifully. They're very, very unnatural. I mean, God has been very kind to us. So that was my Coimbatore London trip, XPD 2470. And then 2018 saw me driving across Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. I did a what do you say? I did a solo trip on a rented car in these 3 countries by myself for 2 weeks. And that's when I started learning about myself, about how when you're by yourself, you know, you don't communicate with anybody for 2-3 days. You're in the car, your music and your maps. That's it. And then you're stopping, seeing. It's very different from the travel that I did before with the 3 women, the 2 other women. So that's when I said, I'm going to do more of these. And then 2019, I saw myself. Can we have the next slide, Rajesh? Actually, yeah. So this was the Coimbatore, London, and then the second one was the Coimbatore, St. Petersburg. Yeah. So if you look at this map, we've literally driven across the world, end to end. If you see, we've started at Vladivostok and then finished at St. Petersburg. We've driven across the continent, entire continent, from the far east to the west. So that's something that even today gives me goosebumps. To just look at the map is like, really, did we actually do that? It's very hard to fathom. And then this time we drove through Kathmandu to the border of Tibet is about 60 kilometers, and it took us 2 days. And that one day we drove for 37 kilometers in 8 hours, and there was no road. And you know, it's just the beginning of the trip. It's the first country. We're leaving Kathmandu behind. We're going into Tibet. And we were told the roads were bad, but I've never driven on those roads like that. And here we are in two-wheel drive cars. We don't have 4-wheel drive cars. It's completely 4-wheel terrain. And my heart just comes up to my throat when I even talk about it, because I don't know how we made it. And we drove 8 hours. We covered 35 kilometers. It took an entire day, and end of the day, it was so exhausting that I just passed out. It was me and my brother again driving. It was again Danno, my car, and the second one, another Tata Hexa that we drove. Again, it was sensible driving, staying calm, you know, taking deep breaths, and then sounding, you know, trying to be positive. And then there are 8 people dependent on you. They put their money in, they put their time in, they put their life savings in, you know, and they're dependent on you. And if the car breaks down, you're finished. So that's another thing that happened. But thankfully, we drove sensibly and we crossed the 35 kilometers. And once you're in Lhasa, the road is like silk. I actually went down and touched the road and I kissed it. You know, I mean, we made it types. So that's how it was. And then we drove to the Everest Base Camp. Again, there's high altitude driving. We're driving at 17,000 feet, 16,000 feet. People are falling sick. People are getting nosebleeds. People are hallucinating because of the low oxygen. And here you are trying to hold it all together, you know, and then trying to be the brave woman. You're the captain. They're all calling you captain. So you're trying to, you know, keep a brave front. But if you get altitude AMS, you can die. So again, you're responsible for these 8 people who just blindly followed you. Again, 4 strangers, my brother, 2 friends of mine. So all these we had a problem with Vladivostok entering from China to Russia. The same thing happened. Border problems. We had to bribe them. The embassy had to intervene. So it took us 4 days. We lost about 4.5 days. And then we had bad fuel in a city called Ufa, very close to Moscow, 2,000 kilometers from before Moscow. We had bad fuel and one of the cars broke down only because of the bad fuel. There were people who were just kind, who came out and then helped us. And then they spent about 8-9 hours on the car, tried to do things. We get complete jugaad. We shut the EGRs. I mean, don't want to get mechanical and technical there, but then we did a lot of jugaad and finally got the car started and we drove to St. Petersburg. So all these times that kept me going was the faith in God, faith in myself. And whatever you do, whatever micro planning you do, things can go wrong, will go wrong. Murphy's law will act. You need to be prepared for that. I mean, there is no oversight at all on my part, but these things can happen. People change their minds. New laws are being, you know, constantly put everywhere across the world. Borders, you know, they just don't announce. They just go ahead and make a change, and you don't know. You're on the road, right? So you're stuck. And the other thing that actually helped us was the contacts that I made. I'd written to all the embassies across the world. Everybody helped us. And then the person that knew, who would have thought that a person sitting in Coimbatore would know somebody, you would know the prime minister, ex-prime minister of Thailand. So that's the power of contacts. And it's just, I had put on Facebook that anybody can help me. Please just give me a contact, help me out. So that's the power of contacts. And then believe in myself. And just stay calm and collected, and so that you don't panic. Panic doesn't help at all. I mean, I used to panic at the drop of a hat all the time, but I've come back home now. Anything happens, whole world falls apart, and I can still be calm, collected, and think straight. So those are the things that I've learned from these trips, these 2 trips that I call the mother of all road trips. Coimbatore London is literally the mother of all road trips, so I call it that. And that's my takeaway from these road trips. How much time do we have, Rajesh? Do we have more time? You need to unmute.
I think it's okay, Meenakshi. It was, yeah, we were over the time, but
All
I
right.
think
So sorry
I
that
think no, absolutely not a problem. If you still want to continue, you can.
No, I think we should cut this and then take questions. Give everybody time to talk. So
Oh, sure,
so much.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Meenakshi. That was really inspiring. Thank you very much for your contribution to this session. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay, so Hanu, may I request you to move to the next, the inspirational panelist, Dr. Ajay GV. Doctor, the floor is yours. The stage is yours. Want to listen to you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Good evening, all. It's a pleasure to have you all here. At the outset, I would like to thank Rajesh Puvada and Hanu Pandansar for providing me a wonderful opportunity to share my experiences, what I have undergone through in my whole life with the audience at large. Can I have the next slides, please? This is the motto behind my life, and this has always been, I have followed this in the line of the spirit. Believe you can, and you are always half there. It's a famous saying by Theodore Roosevelt. So I'm Dr. Ajay. I'm presently a COVID doctor. You can call me as such because I'm doing a part of the COVID duty and an oncologist per se. I'm an international para table tennis player, presently ranked world 36 in the world as of now today, and have participated in the Asian Games, Commonwealth, other games too. Can I have the next slide, please, Hanu? Yeah, this is me. The right side, what you see is, it was my leg a long time back. This is called a Ilzeros technique, where there was a knee lengthening of the whole thing. I have undergone all the 3 operations till date. There's still rods inside me, and these were the rods which were inserted by a doctor just to extend my knee. So these have been the adversities all throughout my life, and I have to come up, and I didn't want myself to be let down at any point of time. So this is also one of the things which I always do. Change your thoughts and you will never change, and you will change your own world. This is what I certainly believe in. I had to change my thoughts that I can. This is what I am, and I have to strive through it to get the best of me and myself to reach the heights which I can. So this is what I firmly believe in. Can I have the next slide, please, too? This is a important slide which Maslow hierarchy, which shows the needs. He classifies the needs of a person in 5 things. That is physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. This is just a physiological needs, but the left part, what you see, is what is very important. The quitters, the campers, and the climbers. The quitters are those people who would like to quit themselves, and in a very small part, they would just have their physiological needs or a safety needs period, and they are very happy with it. The campers are who goes a 1 step ahead and says that I have done this, I have done that, and we are happy with the things what we have achieved in life, and let's calm down. The climbers are the few. We all want ourselves to be the climbers and reach a goal of self-actualization with love, belonging, esteem, self-actualization, so that we go ahead in life. I will be talking about my adversities in the next slide. Can I go for next slide, please? Yeah, this is the story of the table tennis and my medicine. As you heard, I am a doctor. I am a table tennis player. I represent India till date. So I have a different story how the table tennis life started. The table tennis life started after I joined my MBBS. Mind you, that was almost 21 years. Till then, I had never touched table tennis board. The first, it so happened during my MBBS that in the evenings I used to find time. Everyone used to play cricket. Even I used to. Sometimes I thought, let's try a new different sport. To my luck, there was a Sai training center just besides my hostel where I used to reside that time. So there was a coach named Shamshad Banu. She's no more, and she coached me. And mind you, I had an operation just before after my first MBBS and before I started playing table tennis. So my parents were wary of that I would hurt my leg, and that would make me my leg worse and all those things. So what happens is when I asked them that I told them that I'm playing table tennis, they outrightly rejected it. They said, "Please, Ajay, concentrate on your studies. You are in medicine. It's no way inferior profession, and there are a lot to study, things to study. So don't fall behind. Please study. And sports you can play whatever you want, but not on this basis." So I just told yes to my parents, although when I went to bed I couldn't sleep. I literally couldn't sleep. So it so happened that to arrange for the finances for myself, I used to get up early. I used to walk all the way from my hostel to college and vice versa. And every day it used to be a 10-kilometer walk, 5 kilometers on one way and 5 kilometers back, just to save money so that I could buy my table tennis bat. The first table tennis bat I bought was for around 100 rupees, and it still lies with me. It's just that I can't get out of it. And it so happens slowly, steadily. They didn't charge me any fees though. They have seen my passion. Every day I used to come, I used to train. So they didn't charge me any fee for those period. By just seeing my passion into the sports, and slowly and steadily I moved up my ranks in table tennis too. I was selected for my college. I was the captain. I represented my university, that's called RGHS. Mind you, I studied in Bangalore Medical College. It's no way a small medical college too. It's ranked in top 5 medical colleges in India. So from there on, I went to represent my university. That was the time when I told my parents that please buy me a new bat. The bat which I am playing is not up to the mark. My that time my father is a bank employee and he was staying in Delhi. So when I called him and I got a blasting from him saying that who told you to play table tennis and what were you doing all these things? Were you playing table tennis behind our back? Then with all those things, even my coach spoke with him, stating that please, he plays good. So he flew all the way from Delhi in a day or two, came back. When he saw my game that I do play table tennis to a good level, so he was amazed. He was happy to see me. And from that day onwards, there was no turning back even a bit. So he bought me a new bat, and there, alas, the photo below down here is I am playing in Asian Games. I won that match, and I went to quarterfinals, lost in quarters. There's a different story, but yeah, these were the moments which I always cherish for my whole life. The right side, I always didn't lag through in my academics too. The right side, I am presenting a poster where I won an All India award. I was ranked gold medal there. So I made sure that my medicine career doesn't fall apart. Neither my table tennis do. So people do ask me, how do you manage both of the things simultaneously without affecting any one of them? So here is my answer. The passion, you need to have the passion and you need to have the dedication for the both of them to get through everything. The passion is every day morning The first thing what you do is to get up early. People say that getting up early gives you an extra time. It gives you an extra edge over the people who don't. So you have an hour or two where you can do a lot of things which people usually do not find time to do. So what you used to do, get up early in the morning, read, and period. I used to practice only in the evenings. Mornings, I usually don't practice table tennis at my school time, at my college times. Then in the evenings, I will come back. After getting ready, I just go play for table tennis for 2 hours. This had been the whole routine for the whole MBBS. And my first breakthrough was that when I won an IWAS medal. That was the first time. And till 2 years back, I was the only man to win a table tennis medal for India, which has been replicated by another guy from Delhi, who has recently won one more medal. So we were the only two people who have won international medals in India. I have won 6 international medals till date. I have traveled all throughout the world, from Australia to Europe to USA and to South America, thanks to table tennis. It has changed my perspective of how I think. Last tournament was in Japan, and trust me, table tennis has taught a lot of things. The sports itself teaches you how to be sustainable, how to come back from if you are down too. So everything life is important. Don't have to neglect one part of your life for the other. Give equal importance for each and everything. There is none superior than the other. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Here I would want to strive that success is no accident. It's just the hard work, perseverance, learning, studying, sacrifice, and most of all, love what you are doing and learning to do daily. So what you do is what you are. So I have to be love in both with my professional life and with my sports life to be on par with the running world. I was preparing for the Olympics, but thanks to COVID, or alas to the COVID, where the Olympics has been postponed, keeping fingers crossed, as and when it happens, I'll be updating you people. The below one was way back in 2010. This photo where I won the third, that's the bronze medal for India. It's so happy. This was my first medal, so this is more dear to the heart. I have won other 5 medals apart from this, but I have won even silver, gold. But this is what I wanted to share. So that this was very close. This was the first time I flew out of India, and it was done in Costa Rica. Mind you, it was the government sanctioned that whole thing in the last time. So we couldn't get the American transit visa. We flew 5 flights from Bangalore to Costa Rica. It took 48 hours on flights. I traveled via South America, Brazil, Peru, and to reach Costa Rica, it was an ordeal. 48 hours with the jet lag, with the people, and we didn't have the yellow fever vaccine. So all those things, that was it. The embassy helped us out in Brazil. While we are coming back, they didn't let us come to India. Again, these were the adversities which we've all went through. It was a team as such, and it was an experience part explaining. Each and every moment I have enjoyed. And the above 2 photos, this was my participation in the Asian Games just recently, and this was the medals in Jordan. There are other medals too, which I didn't show it to you, but I would be sharing it to you in the next slide. Next slide, please. Hanu, can I go for the next slide, please? This is what I have done, a small collage of the previous slide. Sorry.
I think, Hanu, yeah, this is a slide.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
These were my moments. My parents, from the day they have known that I have been representing India, they have helped me a lot. The days were then when my mom used to ask me, have you studied? have you studied? And these are the days when my mom asks, apart from studying, have you started playing? Have you played today? How was it? How have you improved yourself? There has been a tectonic shift while she has asked me from the place how I study to how I play. So I even had an honor of being a flag march on the photos on the left side where I represent India in the Darwin Games. I was the flag bearer of the whole games, and this, the photo below is of a king of Jordan who where I won a silver medal. So I could the same here. I can meet people, I can know them. Sports has changed my perspective, how I think, and it has given a different dimension to my professional life too. I can, whenever I go out, I tend to visit an hospital, and being an oncologist, I tend to connect them people over Facebook or LinkedIn and ask them how they do that. I personally go and see the places how they are working. So I have, apart from sports, I have been to other hospitals also where I see them. I see the working of the hospital. So I have this has changed my even my practice in my professional field, being a doctor. The changes what they have, the nitty-gritties what they have introduced in their clinical practice are being shared, which I can incorporate in myself too. And all these put together, I even have roamed a lot of places. So these were the snakes with all those things. So I have literally enjoyed it. I've not but the least, I would even thank my parents and my wife. I've just shared photos of this. So they have been a support and a pillar behind me for throughout my life. And I can't express gratitude to them apart from just saying thanks every day. Can I have the next slide, please? This is the recent photo of mine where I won the nationals, which was indoor, and I have been winning. I am number one in India from past 7 years on trot. And this is a famous saying by Jang JK. He is my idol in table tennis. The way he plays, I am just mesmerized by it. Where he says that only passions, great passions, and can even elevate great soul to great things. What I would like to say is the 7 years of hard work to be a national champion on a trot is not a small thing, and I have been able to achieve it. I'm still the national champion as of today as I speak. The 2020 was scheduled but was cancelled thanks to COVID. So I'm just waiting for the COVID to get down, and I'll be again back to my table tennis boots. From past 4 months, I have been busy with my hospital in Varanasi. Right now I'm in Varanasi, and I hardly can. I don't find time to start practice here, and the whole stadiums are closed. So I'm more of a doctor now than being a sports person right at this moment. Can I have the next slide, please? As this is about your how to improve your AQ quotient. AQ is adversity quotient. I have just summarized all my things in just 10 tips. How each and everyone can improve their AQs, and this is how which I thought I will just share it to you people. Be detective. Whenever there is some situation where you are pondering what to do, at least think about it. Do at least a thing which you can always strive for, and at least which is not in your control. Again, be a lawyer, be a judge, be a pioneer. Pioneer means take the ownership. Let me see, even both in your professional life and anywhere you are working for, take the ownership and take difficult situations, because if anyone can do, it's you. It's only you. If anyone can do, if you let other people do it for you, then the credit goes to them. So take the ownership, be a pioneer, be a firefighter. Whenever there is adversity strikes, immediately contain the blaze. Means whenever there is a problem, try to minimize the problem. Don't let this problems spread throughout the forest and then start wondering where to get the firefighters from. Be a surgeon, which I already am, but I'm just saying be a surgeon in the difficult times to prevent the bleeding and to curtail the areas. And this has to be in your personal times too. You need to be a surgeon in the personal relationships so you can contain the adversities to the as minimum as possible. Be a visionary so that you can be the first pioneer, or thoughts can be incorporated, so do things on a different parameters so that you can just think one step ahead of your colleagues or competitors. Be an accountant. This is one of the most important because you need to manage your financials, and don't change yourself in a bad way. Be a catalyst, be a trigger which can gain control, and don't change yourself. This is what I just wanted to show, emulate you. Hopefully, I have just finished my whole talk in 15 minutes or less.
I think Ajay is slightly over. I think there is an important thing. First of all, thank you, Ajay, for a wonderful presentation. I hope. Would you like to say something more, or did I stop you?
Yeah, no, fine. There's a next slide which I am just show how we work in the COVID times now. This is what I am right now. We sit in the OPD with these masks. It's horrible, which were never used to before, but this is how it is now. So you can't let your professional life fall behind, and you need to strive forward in all the aspects of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. That was a wonderful, inspiring presentation. Really appreciate you giving us the time for today. And thank you very much. And importantly, this is an announcement I want to make. We might run over by 10 minutes. More than we will not end exactly at 5. Probably we'll extend 10 minutes more. We might end at 5:10. Okay. I hope it is okay with all of you. Meanwhile, I would also request you to start putting your questions forward in the chat window, so that when the presentation, the third panelist completes, we can have a Q&A session quickly. So with this, I'm going to hand over to the next panelist, who is from the intellectual and the academic background. It's Neeraja Ganesh. Hi, Neeraja.
Thank you so much.
All yours.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Hanu, for the opportunity. And after Meenakshi and Dr. Ajay, I really don't know what I'm going to say, but let me make an attempt. So 16th December 2005, at about 6 p.m. in the evening, me, my husband and daughter locked up the house, and we were just going to Shoppers Stop, do some shopping, and we heard our landline ring inside. Usually, you know, one wouldn't go back because you're already out for shopping. For some reason, we opened the door and we went in, and I picked up, I received the call, and it was my family doctor who told me that my father's reports had come. My father had not been keeping well for some time, and she had prescribed some tests, and the reports had come, and she said he has blood cancer. You know, in Hindi they say "Zameen ke niche se," you know, "Paan ke niche se zameen khisak gayi." It was that moment, right? My father was 63, and she said, "I cannot tell this to your mother, so come and meet me tomorrow, and let's discuss what we do about." Next day I went and met her, and then we met the hematologist at St. John's Hospital, who told me that he has 6 months to live. And I say 6 months to live, I'm not saying 6 months to die, because, you know, even that particular statement means quite a bit. I'm not going to talk about that story of the 6 months and how we dealt with it and all of that. Today, when I was sitting down to do the slides, I was reflecting a little. I, as a person, am not the type who does a lot of self-reflection. While I'm going to give you some yarn on that in the next couple of slides. But I think I'm not a person who sits down and, you know, very consciously reflects, because I think it is inbuilt in me. Reflection, self-reflection is inbuilt in me, because I have been an only child. I have been an introvert for most of my life. For those of you who may have been, you know, listening to my talks in the last few years, may wonder, you know, where the introvertedness come. But I was a very neat, timid person, including getting on inside the organization for 10 years of my career. I didn't talk very well. I did my work and I went home, right? So I think because of that reflection, self-reflection is probably a part of me. But today I did a conscious reflection. And what it probably told me was that after this incident, my father passed away. He passed away exactly in 6 months. December 16th was the report, and 13th June 2006, he passed away. He was 63, as I said, not an age when you would think that somebody would pass away. I think subconsciously or unconsciously, any situation that has come my way after that, and I'm not going to call it adversity because it's a very big, large, heavy term, any situation which is challenging, which is an issue, I think I have always somehow reflected back on the fact that my father went through this and he passed away, and there is no return from there. So probably I compared every situation in my life to that, to say that, of course, there is always a coming back from every other situation, right? You lose a job, you can find another one. In today's times, I hear there have been salary cuts, so you'll get back your salary and more than that. I mean, even in situations where, somebody is not able to have a baby, you've got alternative ways. There's an IVF, there's a surrogacy. If nothing, you can adopt, you can be a parent. The point I want to say to people to start with is that there is a way ahead. There is a way to deal with it, cope with it, go beyond that and get better. And hence the starting of my story was to start that always remember that the worst, what's the worst that can happen, which is also something that I'm going to talk about. If that is not as traumatic as the death of someone, I think these will pass. So that's the starting point. Can we go on to the next slide, Hanu? One of the things that I would definitely want everyone to do is find meaning in what you do. People used to ask me what my purpose in life was, right? And for many years I said, what is the purpose in anybody's life? Do whatever you do to look after your family. So for me, my purpose in life is to ensure my family is taken care of. I have a daughter, ensure that she grows up well into a good human being, and all my energies were focused on family, and also, of course, the other part was work. So I used to be in an IT company for 25 years. I was an IT professional. And there was no time to think of any other meaning in life. Life was quite meaningful. And in 2016, I was in Capgemini, and they asked me to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break. I did some research to do this because I have never taken a career break. So I thought, okay, let me do some scientific research to say what it means. And I realized that there are some portals that help women on a career break restart. So I put out a recommendation, and then because I had signed up on this portal, I got invited to a conference for women on a career break, and I attended that. Don't know why still, because I was not on a break, not contemplating a break. But then I went there and I listened to the stories of these women on a career break, struggles that they have when they reach the stage of an interview, the questions that they are asked. It was traumatic, really. Why should we hire you? You've taken a break, and etc. And I said, I need to do something about this. I don't know what, but I said I have to do something about it. So I came back from the conference, and the first thing that I could do, which was in my hand, was send some of the CVs of these women that I had met at the conference within the organization. And maybe, I would have probably shared with some of the audiences if they are from Capgemini today. They would have got it, and I kind of hounded them to say, do consider this thing. But I really wanted to do something. At that point in time, this portal Jobs for Her was looking out for what they called as ambassadors. Ambassadors were women who have taken a career break and had found some, good things about this Jobs for Her portal, and they wanted them to talk about it wherever they went. So I said, let me sign up as an ambassador, because the point was I wanted to do something. And I said, let me sign up as an ambassador. Maybe that's something that I could do. And I became part of this WhatsApp group of other women who were on a career break. And there were a lot of conversations, and me being a little more senior than them, was able to guide them in some ways. And automatically, when the Jobs for Her team decided to start a mentoring portal, I got onboarded on it. So one of the things that I really want to point out is, whatever situation you are in, please ensure that you take action. I know it's very difficult times, like Meenakshi said, and Dr. Ajay was saying. But you can sit, you can moan, you can cry, you can crib, but take action. You can do all of that, because it is emotions at the end of the day. And there's only that much that you can control, the emotions, but take action. So I took action. I became an ambassador, I took action. I became a mentor, I took action. And somewhere the meaning to my life emerged. Somewhere I realized that there's a larger than, go to work, earn some money, look after family kind of a purpose in life. And that's kind of the starting point to bring about a bigger meaning in my life. Can we go ahead to the next slide, Hannah? So coming back to the worst that can happen, right? So that was 2016, the story that I said. Now 2017, and those of you who know me very well will know that unlike Meenakshi, unlike Dr. Ajay, I hate to travel for work, hate to travel for work. So all my career, I have ensured that I find projects and roles which will keep me in Bangalore. But finally, it reached a stage where I had to pick up, a role which took me to Pune every month. And it was hard, but as I said, whatever I do very sincerely. So I was keeping at it. Somewhere in the month of May in 2017, I realized that my mother was not feeling too well, and we were getting some doctor's opinions and all of that. But something told me that I need to be with her and not keep traveling. This monthly thinking. So I went and spoke to the business unit, and I said that I'm not going to do any of these travels unless and until extremely required. Not for a compliance that okay, fine, come to Pune. You could possibly do things remotely, which we all learned now in the COVID era. And everybody told me it was a very career limiting move. I said, doesn't matter because I need to be around here. And so I was told that I will have to leave the project, and I was okay with it, right? And I was also told that who knows, if you do not find another project which doesn't have travel, maybe you even have to exit the organization. And I said, that's okay. What's the worst that can happen? I'll have to leave the organization. I may have to leave the organization without having found another job, which is okay. The point is, what is the very worst? For me, the worst situation is losing a life. And if whatever you are in doesn't, the outcome is not that, I think you can deal with it and you can come out of it. So have a positive outlook and also have a realistic view, which is what I would suggest. So what I did was, of course, I took 6 weeks of leave because my mother at that point had to undergo a surgery and she had to be on bed rest. And given that I'm the only child, the father's no more, I told her to come and stay with me. And I could have stayed at home. But again, the take action, right? Every day for a couple of hours, I would step out and I decided to go and volunteer somewhere, keeping in mind the meaning and purpose in life. I went back to jobs and I said, I can do something for you. And they were, doing an event in September, and this was June. So I was, going to their office every alternate day for a couple of hours and keeping myself busy and doing something around it. Also, what I did was I went around meeting a lot of people because I took a realistic view of the situation. What if, I do not find another role inside the organization which has no travel, and then I decide to quit. Whichever way I decide to quit, organization asks me to quit, whichever way it is, I need to have, something else. And I do not want to go into another corporate, life where there was travel and then negotiations. I went around using that month, 6 weeks to talk to a lot of people around starting off on my own, what collaborations we could do, so that I build an idea so that if ever, whatever the worst happens, I on from there. Well, my mother recovered 6 weeks later, but my husband fell extremely ill as she went back to her house. A severe viral that just drained him out. He couldn't even sit up, right? So I extended my leave. He got better. My father-in-law fell ill, and my father-in-law passed away. So what started as 6 weeks went on for 3 months. So my leave also from 6 weeks extended to 3 months. While we continuously were looking if there were options within the organizations for a role with no travel, which was not happening. And this was happening on my personal side. At the end of the 3 months, I had to either get back to work and pick a role with travel, or I had to leave, and I decided to leave. Now, how did the decision making happen, And that's what I want to kind of bring out here, that when you have a larger purpose to life, and when you kind of look at what's the worst that can happen, and you have taken certain actions, however small it is, it does enable you to move ahead. What direction you go and where you end up, what outcomes you gain is something that you will know later, but at least you're moving on. So with this period of having worked with women on a career break, having seen what opportunities are around larger purpose in life, I decided to quit. And the fact that I still continue to speak to a lot of people during that 3 months of period I knew there are things that I could pick up and, not get back into a job, but do something on my own. Having volunteered at Jobs for Her, the opportunity to head a not-for-profit foundation just came my way. They were starting they're forming a new not-for-profit foundation, and Jobs for Her asked me if I would come and head that. And can we go to the next slide, which is what I talk about, creating opportunities. Had I not volunteered, had I not been there, had I not been an ambassador, a mentor, a volunteer with them, they may never have gotten to know about me. They may have never seen how I work, and they might have advertised the role and look for somebody else who has a background in running NGOs. I had no such background. I came from a corporate 25-year IT background, but they saw something in me, and the role came my way. While I was in that role, it is an extremely different setup, right? An NGO, almost like a startup, not like a corporate. You have to have a learner's mind. I was the only person working in this NGO because you have to keep the team slim. You cannot be spending, money of an NGO on, having a large team. So I always say that the only thing that I probably didn't do was make chai there. Otherwise, everything is what I did. And for that, you have to have a learner's mind. You have to unlearn. You have to relearn, the skills that are needed to ensure that you are able to deliver to what this new organization needs. And also ensure that I grabbed every opportunity that came. So I was called to speak at forums, and I ensured that I go ahead and do that. And after 1.5 years, when I realized that there is something bigger than that I want to do. I mean, there is definitely the focus on helping women, but I also want to look at students of today and ensure that we start to catch them young. Why should they get into a corporate, get into the workforce, and then realize that they missed out on certain things? So I also wanted to do something in the student space. So I decided to quit the organization, and I remained a freelancer, kind of help them projects. I was looking around to do something in the student space, and this is where the aspect of contacts, which Meenakshi was mentioning, comes, or what I might say networking comes into play. So I got a WhatsApp forward from someone which said that National College in Jayanagar, which is where I work, National College, all the national colleges under National Education Society is under my purview. But National College Jayanagar started 3 new courses, one in data science, one in IoT, one in biomedical electronics. And there was the name of the person who had kind of triggered those courses in this college. I looked him up on LinkedIn, and I went and met him in the college, and I said, I would like to help, because this is a passion I have, this is a purpose that I have in my life. I would like to help in terms of building these courses. I have a large network. I can bring people from the field and get some faculty development done, or projects. And they created a role for me, saying that why only these 3 courses? We have the entire institution available for you for this role. And that's how I've landed this opportunity. So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you are in an adverse situation, of course, you need to be resilient. And these are some of the tips, and whatever Dr. Ajay has said and Meenakshi has said in terms of building that resilience and keeping at it and moving on is important. But it is also important to dig a well when you are not thirsty, right? You never know when the adversity comes. Ensure that you do all of this through your life. And so that whenever the situation presents itself, however grim it is, you will be able to sail through and sail through better. So today, I always joke that, people never knew me in the 25 years of my corporate career, but I think in the last 4 years of what I have done, I think people know me, much better, and probably that's how I also landed this opportunity to be on this forum with Meenakshi and Dr. Ajay. So that's a small bit of advice that I would like to give to the participants in terms of how one can actually transform an adversity into an opportunity. Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Neeraja. That was absolutely fantastic presentation from you. Really appreciate your time contribution towards this. In the interest of time, I have received 3 questions, and I would like to go through without naming the person who asked for it, because it's very simple. Because there are names that are coming that are different from the person who has joined. So I would just take the first question. This is for Meenakshi. I'm going to read as I received. Okay. So as a woman, hats off to your strong decision and will for such a long run. My questions to Meenakshi: what guts let her decide such road expedition? generally women don't plan such adventure. Was there any specific reasons? What kind of mind preparations is needed before doing things what others don't do? Can you tell, point out in precise? So it is primarily the mental makeup. What was the mental makeup? Meenakshi, all yours.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, whoever that is, and thanks, Rajesh. For me, travel became a passion. I started traveling so much. I would be out of country for like 6 months every year. Like I was traveling so much, driving around so much, and I started liking cars. Like I've grown up with two older brothers, and Naren Karthikeyan is my cousin. It's the whole, my brother's a racer. The whole thing is there. The mechanic, I love mechanics. If you ask me to choose between a man and a machine, it's always a machine. You know, that sort of thing. So I like driving. So I wanted to do, I got tired of driving in India. I've driven abroad. So this whole thing of overlanding caught up, driving from country to country, crossing land borders. I mean, you can do that in Europe. You can do that seamlessly in Europe. But when you drive through Central Asia, lots of other countries, it's very difficult. I mean, you need to have a very, very, you have to be a little off in the mind to do that. Seriously speaking, what is in the mind? I mean, to think this up is easy, but to implement it, to get people to go with you, it was a 1 year thing for me. To plan it, to get people to go to do the paperwork. You need 11 visas. I mean, in 3 months' time, and there's somebody who's never traveled with me before. Absolutely no travel. So she got 2 visa rejections, 2 UK visa, twice rejected. So there was a lot of adversity there also, but you need to be there is no going back, because you put in money, you put in effort, and it's my dream. And to drive to London, that has been in my mind for the last 6 years. And I'm this person, and a lot of people told me, why don't you do it next year? Even just the Trans-Siberian Highway, Coimbatore to St. Petersburg, it is very difficult to get it together. So my friend who actually traveled with me, Pradeep Yuvraj, he said, let's do 2020. Look what happened in 2020. The COVID happened. So I'm just sitting at home, and for me to get to Coimbatore from Dindigul, I need a pass. Forget driving through China to go to, Russia or do the Trans-Siberian. So that's something that I believe in, to do something that you want to do immediately. It can be something like picking up a phone and calling your friend and saying, I hate you, or I love you, or this is what you did. I don't procrastinate, because life is very, very fragile, and that's something that I don't do. So for me, it's something that I had to do in my life, to think it up. I don't know why it's been in my mind. I think it's because of the passion for driving. And in fact, the passion for driving is so much that I have a tattoo of a stick shift on my hand. So that's how much I like a car. So I don't have a tattoo of my daughter or my husband. I have a tattoo of my stick shift. So that's how much I like driving. And that explains, I think, why I wanted to do it. I hope that answered your question.
Of course it did. And the next question is for Dr. Ajay. Is there an advice? This is coming from the heart of a mother, basically, to differentiate between passion and profession, and also handle a teenage boy. What's your tip? This is the current situation this mother is in. And there is a passion, there is a profession, and also a boy. How do you want to, if you empathize, Dr. Ajay, how would you deal with this?
If I would have been in her position, just putting in her shoe, I would say passion and profession, you have to give equal importance for the both. There is none superior or none inferior. Once you have your, but that has to be chosen at what juncture of life the one is in. For example, if the if the child is at 10th and 12th, you can just let go for a year, maybe just to pursue your professional life more. That is the studying of 10th or the 12th more than the other things, because at that point of time, if you fall back on the academics at that point of year, you will lose the whole academics for your whole life. But passion is something which travels with you for even after the academics or even after the professional things. It is the way of life which one has to stay alive for. That is a driving force behind and the purpose for all the things.
Thank you, Dr. Ajay. See, at the end of the day, what matters is the prioritization, timing, the passion for doing everything. And I hope, I think it's a fantastic answer. Thank you very much for that. And we have the last question for the day, the third question. It's coming. Every individual has a personal qualities when they're born, right? This question is coming. Question is, while tenacity is generally considered an inborn quality, what will be a few practical tips on further developing it consciously? Any one of the three panelists can answer this. What would you consciously keep in your mind to improve your resilience? That's what it is. Tenacity is resilience, not giving up. So even though you have it within you, but can you keep conscious? Can you be, yes, I want to do it and do it? Or is it just that you're given only this much and you can't go beyond it? Do you believe in that? Do you think that tenacity cannot be improved? Personally, I believe that you can, but I would listen from the panelists. Any one of the panelists, please. Maybe anyone. Nirja, maybe.
Yeah, sure. So that's what I said, right? It can be improved, and it has to be improved. The point is that you have to be extremely passionate about whatever you want to do, and you have to keep taking action. And that's why I wanted to say, however small it is, your actions don't have to be big. So when I said that, I want to do something about the women, even if it meant, 75 series to the organization, it is action. It is, going ahead. So improvement in terms of resilience is not to sit and, ponder over it and look at, the big picture and how do I, handle this crisis. It is about, what I can do in small flavors and move ahead, and which will impact myself and the rest of, people around, because if you are resilient, the rest of the family and friends and, colleagues are going to move ahead with you. So if you are a leader in an organization, you've got to display that quality. So taking that small bits of action, and seeing those small successes is going to, build you up better to say, okay, fine, there is light at the tunnel and into the tunnel, and let's keep moving. So that's my, two bits to this.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got a wonderful question now, a very, very relevant and a very timely question. What would you advise? This is specifically to you, Neeraja, because you are the catalyst between the industry and talent, right? Need not be restricted to fresh talent, can be anything. What would you advise for someone who has recently lost a well-experienced job due to ongoing pandemic and looking forward to career shift? How positive is it in a long-running career? A tough question.
Sure. Yeah. And Rajesh, you were part of the discussion yesterday, right, that we had, which told us, we had a webinar that our college hosted with 3 of the HR folks from the industry who did paint the picture rightly, right? It was a very realistic view. There are jobs, there are opportunities, there are openings. That is definitely there. It might be less in number, and it might be looking at different kinds of, roles, different kinds of skill sets, different kinds of competencies, resilience being one of them. How do you deal with the crisis? How do you kind of keep calm? How do you, manage the team patiently, etc., etc.? How do you manage in a virtual environment and things like that? So there are jobs, there are opportunities. One needs to, ensure that you do the research to find out where these jobs are, where your capabilities, skill sets, competencies fit in. So and regardless of the COVID situation, this is what I tell. When I was talking to the women on a career break, this is what I tell. And this is something that I heard in 2016 in the conference, which opened up in my head, right? With 25 years of IT background, I kept thinking that whenever I make a job switch, I have to look at an IT job. It has to be always IT. Because that's all I knew and that's all I thought about it. But the person on the panel in the conference said that you have to look at what competencies you have, which could be communication skills, which could be, persuasion, which could be stakeholder management. And then look out for the roles which need these competencies. Skills can always be developed. You can always go. There are plenty of courses online, offline available. You can always, study. But the competencies are what are going to, ensure that you are good at the particular role that you are in. So when I moved to the not-for-profit role, I'm sure they also looked at me in terms of my stakeholder management is fantastic, because the NGO work needs a lot of partnerships to be developed, right? And team management is fantastic. So I will be able to manage the community extremely well. So to this person, I would definitely suggest that there are opportunities. keep looking not only in the domain and in the skill sets that you have, but please reflect to see what your competencies are, and there you can kind of map them. The second thing I will definitely say is, please be well networked always. You can't start now and ensure the results come. It's again the well which you have to have built, but networking is absolutely key, and ensure that you have a good personal brand in place to kind of, take you forward. Opportunities will come your way, don't worry.
And one more question, Neeraja. It's pointed at you once again.
Okay.
You have made a 360-degree change from corporate to academics, probably college. How do you manage this tectonic shift? What makes you moving? Last question for the day.
Yeah, what makes me moving is because I'm very, very clear of what I want to achieve, right? So even in the early days when I was in the IT field, I was clear in terms of what I want to achieve, which is, progressing the career ladder in a technology organization, and I did it to whatever point I did. And then why I left, I've already narrated the story. But by the time I left, I very clearly knew there are a few things that I want to do in my life. One is, to kind of help women and in terms of, reaching their potential, aspire towards their dreams. And now I also know that, I also want to look at, the younger generation, the girls and boys of today, to ensure that they keep moving and, they are relevant for the workforce. So when you are very clear in your mind in terms of what your purpose is, it doesn't matter where you're working and what you're working at. The purpose will drive you, and you will satisfaction when you see the outcomes coming in that direction. Yeah, that's how I manage the shift, and I keep going.
That's inspiring. I have not made such a shift so far. When that shift comes, I should be prepared as well.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, panelists. That was the top 5 questions that we've received, and I ensured that they were addressed. And I thank all the participants who made their time. Do you know what? We are overshot by 23 minutes, and we still have participants in with us. So I'm thanking them for all their patience and the time they've offered in a weekend. Hanu, it's back to you for the closing comments.
All right.
Thank
you, Rajesh. Thanks, everyone. All this started with one WhatsApp message, just to give you the context. We got one WhatsApp with IQ, EQ, SQ, and AQ. Then we started debating, okay, what is this AQ is all about? Though we all had what is an adversity quotient, we thought, let's take it forward and make it a session. And that's how Rajesh and I ganged up, and then we thought, okay, let's take this forward. And we created a flyer, and then, before that, we wanted a good panelist. So that's where we reached out to Meenakshi, Dr. Aravind, and Neeraja. Thank you so much for accepting our request and coming here and sharing your wonderful, wonderful experiences, right from adventure to medical field to intellectual field. I think it was very well thought through adversities that all 3 of you shared. And I also take this opportunity to thank Rajesh for moderating the complete session, and all the participants. Thank you so much. Though we overshot by almost 20-25 minutes, you are still, you are with us and listening to us. And thanks for asking that question as well. And this is the first of the series that we thought we do. We have done it, and we are looking forward for many more such events wherein we help people to understand various topics. So that is where we are here. And once again, this is Hanu. Thank you so much for all of you, both the panelists as well as participants, and of course the moderator. And thank you so much once again. All of you have a good weekend, and much appreciated your time and patience for almost 1.5 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a great day. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.